Dealing with grief and the loss of a loved one. What is grief? Grief is varying emotional feelings. It's an extreme state of those varying emotional feelings that someone feels when they lose someone, or sometimes in the case of a breakup. Grief varies with every individual, and at the same time, it has different time frames to which people deal with grief. For some, it may be 6 months, some, it may be a year, and others 4 to 5 years. The most common type of grief that we identify with is known as the anticipatory grief, where we anticipate a certain event to take place. Like, for instance, if a person has been sick for quite some time, we eventually know that should they die, then we anticipate this form of grief. And generally, it follows by the person not showing much feelings or emotions when a certain incident takes place. When people don't deal with their grief, this can lead to depression, and depression can result in emotional as well as health problems at a later stage. So let's understand the 7 stages of grief. And you may know somebody who would be going through this grieving process, and you are able to identify the different stages they may be at. But remember, this is not to diagnose as a doctor, but this is merely to assist them and guide them through, so you know exactly what to do and why they react the way they do. The first stage would be shock and denial. Now, this is common for a person to have numb feelings and a feeling of disbelief about the situation, and so this is a defense mechanism. So people use this because they don't want to accept the reality and face the pain that's going to be attached to it. Some of the familiar statements a person would use while grieving is that I'd see the person around the corner, or I'd see the person just after work when they come just now. This denial is merely a way for them to tell themselves that they no longer will be able to see this person, and so they don't want this to become a reality. The next stage is pain and guilt. This is the time when the person experiences the pain of the situation and it affects those around them, as well as sometimes it can affect the person itself, because sometimes it leads them to make rash decisions and to go down a path where there is alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and eventually sometimes it can lead to suicidal tendencies. If we are to compare a physical wound that you have, at that moment it will pain severely, but eventually that pain will ease. And the same thing applies with emotional scarring or wounds that you may have. It will eventually ease and will get better. But it's important that you need to tell yourself that it will get better, and you must make the choice that you need to and want to progress. The guilt surrounding the situation is that you keep telling yourself that you could have done more, or you wish you could be there for the person. Why didn't they speak to somebody? So there's always a bit of heaviness that one feels, because they feel that they could have handled the situation better, and as a result they start to feel guilty that they did not do as much as they could. The third phase is anger and bargaining. It is common for the person who is grieving to become angry at the person who's died, because they feel that that person would have not looked after themselves properly, or they could have sought help. This anger is not only stemmed at the person who died, but sometimes it can be passed to those around, or the anger can be passed to the person himself who is grieving, because they are angry at themselves for not being able to change the situation and make it better. The person is at a stage where they are desperate, so they begin to bargain with God and ask Him to help the situation, and they make empty promises to Him that if you do this, then I will make sure I will give up my smoking, or I will give up this or give up that. And this becomes empty promises that they make in desperation as they bargain for the situation to feel better. The next phase is depression. This stems from confusion and helplessness, and this comes by questions such as, what am I going to do without the person? There is a sense of emptiness that you feel because the person that you lost is no longer with you, as you start to face life and realize that the person is no longer there. At this point, this is the midpoint of the stages of grief. This is your highest point, as though you were climbing a mountain, emotional mountain, and you reach the top, and after that it will be downhill. Some of the constant reminders are the memories of the ones you lost and how life was with them. And as you compare it, now that you face reality that life is not the same. One of the things that you do at the top of the mountain is that you are able to see things better. And when you realize and stop and think and see things better, you'll realize that you tell yourself at this stage to go on, that the person who you lost wouldn't want you to remain here, but they'll want you to continue and keep their memories within them. And it is okay to be sad at times, but these memories must not stifle you, they must not hinder your progress. So continue to the next stage in grief. The next stage is known as the upward turn. Now, instead of feeling depressed and down, angry, and full of denial, what happens is this: you come to the point where you are motivated to accept the new life that you are now facing without your loved one. And you go on and you tell yourself that you're keeping the memories within your heart and you will still continue, and you've decided to face life head on. The next stage is reconstruction and working through. This stage is better known as picking up the pieces and moving on and facing life again. You will make financial and practical decisions without the one you lost, as well as you will have a sense of determination to go on, because now you realize that there is change that has taken place, but you will embrace the change and you will put things together like a puzzle, keeping in mind that a puzzle is put together one piece at a time. And you finally reach the hardest stage, and that is acceptance and hope. This is when you realize that all that you have from your loved one is the memories that you can hold on to, but you need to continue and accept the new life that lies before you. This does not mean that you will stop caring about them, but you will realize that you will face life, cherish their memories, and at times feel sad, but the sadness will not be detrimental to you. You will pick yourself up and you will have the hope that one day you all will be together according to God's will. During these stages, be patient with yourself. Be patient with those people you may know who are grieving at this moment. And be patient that it will all work out. And remember, most of all, that the grieving process is different for everybody.